are Geekcentric, and you can be too. Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our special Behind the Geeks episode for Mud 79, a fan-made Star Wars story presented by Fearless Fred. But first, if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things Geekcentric. As I mentioned, today's episode is for Mud 79, a fan-made Star Wars story presented by Fearless Fred, which is available on all podcast feeds. And joining me today is the creator, the writer, the producer, the narrator. He's the fantastical, he is the fabulous friend of the show, Fearless Fred. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you today?
Can
I just say you're so much taller in real life than I expected you to be. You're a tall guy. I'm a little guy. Like, you're a giant dude. I'm a tiny guy. And when I met you, I was like, whoa, you're so much taller than I expected you to be in real life. It's amazing. What's it like up there?
I know. I actually, when I was in LA, someone I ran into says, like, there's not a lot of people in this whole press world that's as tall as me or taller than me, and you're pushing it, bro. You're pushing it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
felt like a giant, that's for sure. We did get to meet in person in Newmarket, comic
Yes.
store Wayside. Great little
Honestly, that is one of the coolest shops ever. If you're coming through the GTA,
Yeah.
and that shop is available to you to go to a signing at, go. It is just like, it's the speakeasy kind of bar,
Yeah.
with cocktails, and it's such a cool shop. Ramon Perez, who's another local creator, I was telling him, I'm like, dude, you gotta go. And he went, and he was like, this is the type of shop that I've always dreamed of having. And I'm like, it's such a good idea.
Yeah, it's such a brilliant way to adapt the idea of like comic book culture for the sort of geeky adult nerds. You know, they have movie nights, they have obviously specialized cocktails there, they sell comic books, they sell toys as well, figures and so on. They have everything. And they're in Newmarket, so it's very much a new vibe for Main Street, and definitely the sort of taking the concept of a comic book store and flipping it on its head and really adapting it. Omar he's such a gem, and he's just such a geek at heart.
And we have no financial vested interest in this.
Exactly.
I want to make this clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we're not sponsored by them. We don't have any investments.
Yeah.
It was just like, that's a very cool store, man. It's very cool.
For sure. But it was the first time we actually had a chance to talk more in person on a lengthy basis, because we've met at Fan Expo a couple times. I ran into
That's just
you.
passing. Everyone's busy.
Yeah,
people got things to do.
But we actually got to chat, and I got to chat with you and Nick because we're both there promoting Dead Romans, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Because I got to say, Fred, this has been your year, man. This has been your year of stuff. Like, you're doing the thing, right? So last time you were on this show, we were talking about Dead Romans, your comic book series with Image Comics, which has now wrapped, and we are now completed the 6-issue run of
but there's a second arc coming.
Oh, there's a second arc coming. We'll talk about that in a sec.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
But today you're here to talk about something that is very near and dear to the Geekcentric family, and that's Star Wars. With your Star Wars fiction fan, I guess it would be a fan fiction story.
Yeah, that's what I call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was gonna do an intro, but I would love for you to do the intro, because I feel like you would be able to articulate it best. What is Mud 79?
It's an old school radio drama. It's a radio drama, but it's a fan-made radio drama, and it's a completely different take on Star Wars. First of all, it's a story told from the Imperial perspective, and I realize that as soon as you say that gets people's, like, their hackles are up when you say that. But if you listen to, it's not what you think it is. It is very different than what you think it is. And I wanted to do something that I could just do on my own. When you write a comic, you need an artist to do the majority of the work. When you're writing, they do the majority of the work. But with an audio drama, that's my day job. So my day job is in radio, and I started as a radio producer, like producing commercials and audio stuff before I was ever on the air. And so I did the majority of the work with this. Like, I wrote it. I got a cast. There's more than 106 people that are part of the cast, playing various characters. And the story is set 5 years after the Clone Wars, and it follows. It's told as a memoir, and it's this guy named Solomon Kwai who joins the Imperial Army when he's 16 years old because he lives on a backwater farming world. He doesn't want to be a farmer. He's not a good mechanic, and he's not a good enough Limmy player to go pro. So his options are be a farmer, work on the launch pads dealing with the freighters that come in and out. And he's like, I don't want to do any of that. And he sees the Imperial Army as an escape. And the idea came from a few sources. The biggest influences, I think, were the Vietnam documentary by Ken Burns, which sounds like a weird pull, but if you know anything about Star Wars, you know that when George was writing I say George like we're friends, we go way back, but like when he was working on the original trilogy, it was an analogy for the Vietnam War. And also in Solo, I love Solo way more than a lot. I love all Star Wars. That's the thing, is like, even if I'm not really enjoying it, there's aspects I love. I always love it. But Solo in particular, the scene that gets me is when first of all, it's the introduction of Mud Troopers. It's the big thing with Mud Troopers, who I love because they're like the regular army of the Imperial War Machine. And when Han is leaving the planet, how does he get off? He joins the army. And that, combined with the Ken Burns Vietnam doc, which I had watched the two of them around the same time, I was like, there's a real synergy there, man. Those two things go very easily together.
Yeah. I think what I love about it is, like, and I'll preface to our listeners, I haven't listened to everything. I've listened to majority of season 1, and I'm getting through season 2. You've done a lot of work, and we'll talk about all that work. But what I love about it is exactly what you've described. It is so rich with inspiration from the same palette of what inspired Star Wars, right? We have the Vietnam influence, but we also have this sort of the radio drama that feels so Orson Welles, classic stories through the radio.
That's the nicest thing you can say.
Yeah,
it's one of the greatest things ever.
But it's obviously so much more elevated because of what you're able to at your disposal. Like, you have incredible amounts of sound effects and sound design that builds out this world that literally paints a picture in your mind as you're listening to it, and that labor of love is throughout every episode. So
you're lucky because you got to see the mix down. I showed you the actual mix down files, and it's 21 tracks deep. And it's 21 tracks of audio.
And I'm like, as a video editor, like, I'm usually using, like, I don't even have that many tracks going at once, depending on what I'm doing. So there's a lot of work that you've put into this. But what I absolutely adore is the commitment to the story, the sort of commitment to filling out the characters and telling this sort of, again, very pocketed story within Star Wars. So you kind of touched on it, the Mud Troopers, almost kind of like I guess you could say an allegory for, like, the lowest of low in this term.
Exactly. That's what he even says. He goes, we were the lowest of the low. We were mud. We watch Star Wars. I love Star Wars. You love Star Wars. But it tends to be Star Wars deals with the generals, the big people that make things happen. And it's rare that they ever, like, get in the trenches with people. And they did this a lot with Clone Wars and Rebels. They did it more than anything else. I still say Rebels is my favorite Star Wars of all.
I'm with you.
But I wanted to track back to the audio stuff, specifically in terms of how it ties into Star Wars. The audio production aspect, when good audio is visual, if that makes any sense. Like, good audio is visual. And there was a line in that video gaming documentary, High Score, where this Japanese audio producer, like, from the beginning, like, some games didn't have audio, and he had this line, and I think he was with Taito Gaming, and he goes, good, like, sound is confirmation.
Right.
So sound is confirmation. When you say something's going to happen, hearing it makes it happen in your brain. And when I went to, I was very lucky. One of my big nerd feathers is that I was at the grand opening of Galaxy's Edge.
Yes,
Like,
I've seen some of that footage actually. I didn't realize after, but you got to be there for the opening.
I cried, dude. I totally cried. And so, like, I was, I'll be honest, I was into my cups. I was drinking. I was having a great time. Open bar, dude.
Yeah.
And I was having a wild time. And I think I was drinking because I was nervous. Like, you're hanging around, and it's like, oh, there goes Brie Larson. She just walks by. Oh, there's Chris Hemsworth. And there's no security. No one's separate. Everyone's just a Star Wars fan. Dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, everyone's in this crowd together. And so when George Lucas is like standing on stage, like, it's like, oh my God. And he goes, and he talks about how now we're all able to go to a galaxy far, far away. And then when Harrison Ford punches the side of the Millennium Falcon, he goes, this one's for you, Peter. And he punches it, and then the whole thing lights up. The orchestra goes, and then the fireworks. I'm like, I'm crying. Like, I'm emotional. I'm a wreck.
Yeah.
But totally sidetracked there. But the you get it.
Yeah, I get it, dude. When I was there, tears.
we got to do a tour. We got to do a tour behind the scenes, and I talked to one of the audio producers. And this is what's interesting about Galaxy's Edge. When you go into Galaxy's Edge, you're transitioning from one park to another. And when you go, they've got the speakers lined up in a way so that all of a sudden you don't hear the stuff that's going on behind you. All of a sudden you hear like an X-Wing fly overhead. You hear speeder bikes zip off in the distance. And it's always just around the corner. And the audio is all tracked. So everywhere you're going, it's very immersive. And I got to talk to one of the engineers, and he said at any given moment, you're listening to approximately 50 plus pieces of audio. And as I'm listening to them, like, and then I started asking him questions, because I was already tinkering with the idea of Mud,
right?
Like all the way back in like 2018. And then after going to Galaxy's Edge, I remember we went there a few months later with my friends that I grew up with that were all Star Wars fans, and we brought our kids, and we all went, and I was talking with them, and one of my buddies that I love Star Wars with, he was like my go to the theater to watch Star Wars friend. He goes, you got to do this. He goes, you got to tell it. He goes, it's so unique and it's so different. And so that storyline with the characters was that there's this disconnect and lack of empathy for the people on the other side. And there's this idea to paint them as just monsters. And I think that's the idea of putting the mask on. It dehumanizes them, right? And then the Mud Troopers, for the first time, you're seeing their faces, and you're seeing them scream, and you're seeing them be terrified. And it's like, they are people. Like, they're not stormtroopers. They're people just like you and me. And we don't know what led them to be in there, because there's all these stories in the expanded universe about conscription and bringing people into the ranks, and the Empire shows up and people have to join. And they're really starting to touch on that stuff in like shows like Andor, Rebels, and all that. But when I watched the Ken Burns Vietnam documentary, there's a very fascinating moment with this guy. And he talks about how his father fought in the Second World War, and they were heroes. They went and they were heroes. And all of his friends that he drinks at the Legion with and the Veterans Hall, they're all guys he fought with. And his cousins fought in Korea, and they were heroes, you know? They did the right thing. So when Vietnam happened, and JFK does the ask not what your country can do for you, like it's Camelot. He's like, it's the call. I have to go. And then he gets there, and he's like, this is not what I thought I was signing up for. And when you're listening to the story, I really wanted the narrator, Solomon Kwai, to explain to you as the listener. And he opens the very first line is, my name is Solomon Kwai. When I was 16 years old, I joined the Imperial Army. And if that upsets you, it's because you didn't have the same opportunity. You may have different opportunities than I did. And that is such a common trait with all these guys that went to Vietnam. All these guys signed on the line thinking something was going to happen to them, and then it didn't happen. And it happened in Iraq, and it happens in Afghanistan, and it happens all the time. And we have this predisposition to dump on these people that go and do these things for even thinking that they should have gone when we haven't walked in their shoes. And then when they're there, they're just trying to get out of there alive. Now, that's not excusing these things that can happen in these places, but the character Solomon Quai and the friends that he has are all very much just trying to get out of there. And I took real care to give them a really good moral center, because my dad is was a lifer in the military, and he said that, and this happens in that Vietnam doc too, is like what makes or breaks a platoon is the leadership.
Yeah.
And so I needed to ensure that if these characters were sympathetic despite fighting for the Empire, they had to have someone who would, in a plausible fashion, make us as the listener who loves Star Wars still like them. And that's why their lieutenant, Dev Orto, is a clone, because we love the clones.
Yeah, exactly.
We're conditioned to like the clones, you know? And then he keeps them straight and narrow. Like, he doesn't like there's a line that I use, which I blatantly stole from the Vietnam doc, was when this guy goes, I never commanded my men to run. I commanded them to follow. And he was always at the front. And that's what Orto does. Like, Dev Orto, who got his name because of a battle he was at, he never tells them to run. He tells them to follow, stay on me.
Yep.
And he demands the best of them, and he keeps them very disciplined. And slowly, as the story's going along, you're starting to see that not everybody is like him in the Imperial Army. And the main characters are starting to realize that even though they are a very effective combat unit, they're still very sheltered to what's going on.
Yes.
You know? And in the third season, I've really laid some sprinkles about what's coming in the third season as the second one moved along. But in the third season, any illusions of what he's doing on this planet are gone. It'll all fall apart. Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, like you said, it's been a busy year, so I'm trying to get things done.
No, for sure.
But it's good. The production part is the hard part, man.
Oh, of course.
That's what takes the longest.
Oh, for sure. So, like, again, you know, I love all of the sentiments that you just talked about here. You know, there's just so much that sticks with the sort of inspiration and the origin of, you know, A, where the idea comes from, but also B, how it fits into Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
So you brought up like Clone Wars, Rebels, and Andor, which all kind of show both sides of good and bad. You know, the rebels, you know, the bad that can exist within the rebellion, also the bad and the good that can exist within those who might question their leadership on the sense of the Empire. Have those shows, like, even now with Andor being out, I'm sure you were really deep into season 2 while Andor was coming out. Did it influence?
It was written.
You? It was written.
100%.
Okay.
I had written. My producer, Dila, has said several times that she believes that somebody was listening to the first season of Mud when they were working on the second season of Mandalorian, because these came out it started coming out like 2020 was when we did the first season, and I wrote the second season right after that.
Yeah,
and so it went right to the other, and the time frame was something that was very crucial to me, because it's set 5 years after the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So the Empire, according to, and this is new canon,
mm-hmm.
the Empire was in its period of expansion. So there was all kinds of, and they talk about this in Andor as well.
Mm-hmm.
There were all kinds of planets that were loosely allied with the Republic. But when Palpatine came in, you're with us, you fly the flag, or you're against us. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yep.
And that's why, like in Andor, the beginning is the guys like, don't make waves, because we are very lucky to be as independent as we are. And when they come in, it's not going to be good. Mm-hmm. So in this setting, the main character, his family fought for the Republic. So for him, the Empire is just a new flag. That's all he says. He goes, it's just a different flag. And he makes a point about saying that the Republic was doing all the same things that the Empire was doing. But like it's just not talked about. The Republic was constantly at war. The Republic was and they touch on this on the animated shorts one. I forget what it's called. Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi, yeah.
With Dooku, like, and in my head I'm like, yes. Like, when I was watching it, I felt so vindicated, you know, because he comes to this understanding and this mindset of the Empire isn't good, and the Republic maybe is better, but the Republic's corruption creates a setting where people can think something like the Empire is good, when it's not. And he goes, and that's slowly, that's the mind frame that the main character comes. But there's all kinds of people that he meets that have very different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a character you meet in the second season, and she is a fervent believer in the Empire. And her reasons for believing in the Empire are very simple. She's lived on this planet where the administration was corrupt,
Mm-hmm.
and their village was constantly getting attacked by raiders and slavers, but the raiders and slavers were paying off the right people to ensure that nothing was done about it.
Right.
And when the Empire comes in, it's like, no, there's raiding and slavery, but we decide who gets to do it, not you.
Yeah.
So for her, the Empire coming in solved all of her problems.
Right.
And that, for her, it's a very simple black and white situation. Like, they sucked. These guys are great. Life has been so good for us since they got here. Why would I not love them?
Yep.
So he meets people that have these different perspectives
Mm-hmm.
than him as he moves along. And that is something that I feel that Star Wars is starting to do a lot more of. And The Last Jedi, I think, was the first time that I really saw them hit it on the head when Benicio del Toro has that line. It's the same people making weapons for both sides.
Yeah.
And I remember when I watched it, like, there was things about that movie, of course, I didn't like. But that is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars moments, period, end of story.
Yeah.
Like, people dump on that scene saying it's pointless. And I'm like, that's the crux of the whole movie.
Sure.
That scene.
That and the Yoda scene, for sure, about, learning from failures and that, there are some moments in The Last Jedi. We could probably get into that, but Nate's not here to defend it. So
yeah, I'm not going to dump on it. I would never, I'm not a big,
I'll dump on it.
I used to be that guy too. I used to be really easy to dump on things. And now I feel like I'm Homer when he's the food critic. I'm always like, it's so good. I love it so much. It's the best. I just talk about what I like.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes it a lot easier. But I think you're right. Like, I think the reason why it's so interesting with what you're doing with Mud 79 is that it actually really does fit into the trajectory of what's happening within Star Wars.
Yeah.
And this constant conversation about who's right, who's wrong. It really is a point of perspective. It is the life that you've led before that really makes you see the galaxy differently. And I think something like Mud 79 is just adding to that conversation. It's continuing that conversation. It's definitely
I wanted to.
And I think it's great. And you touched on the idea of maybe someone was listening. Do you know if anyone from Lucasfilm is this on their radar? Are they aware of this?
I know that there are people at Disney that are aware of it because I've been contacted by people from Disney before.
Awesome.
And I even because this is somebody that I used to deal with a lot when I was doing like a lot of Teletoon stuff.
Right.
And I asked them if I was going to get in trouble, and they're like, "You're like giving us loads of free advertising."
Yeah.
And he goes, you have never done anything but talk about your love of the franchise, and you're not making money off of this. He goes, no one's going to get mad. He goes, you're celebrating it. He goes, the fan community is huge. I do get frustrated with the fan community in certain senses. It feels like as soon as you say you're doing like a fan made thing, there's this
degrades
it degrades it. And it's like it's fan made, but this is what we all do for a living. Like everyone that's a performer is like a professional.
Mm-hmm.
We're all just doing sort of a labor of love. Yes. You know what I mean?
Well,
it gets, I wish I could get it out there more.
But dude, you've been on top of Apple Podcasts, like as a recommended for the last little while.
Yeah.
You guys have scored massive reviews on Apple Podcast as well, which means
it's never enough, man.
I know. But I guess the next evolution really like what if, just again, a what if situation, Lucasfilm did come and they say, we would love to.
I'd be like, take it. It's all yours. Just let me write. Just let me write on it. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think you have such a 10-year experience with, obviously working in media, but you've written a lot of comic books, so and then you're a Star Wars fan as well, so it's like the two kind of influence each other, which must make this a joy to kind of bring to life.
Oh my god, I absolutely love telling the story because it's such a unique little pocket. It's a little pocket, and And I think that what was really important was to me is like I didn't want to have Jedi involved. And
Yeah.
if you're listening, the first season feels like I maybe am breaking my own first rule. But once you listen to it and get to the end, you realize that I'm bending the rules a little bit, but I don't. And I follow the canon, and I'm not inventing things. I'm not creating new things. Like the weapons that they're all using are the weapons that were allocated to those specific units based on the time that they were fighting in. And I think one of the biggest like influences in terms of the structure and the way things would all work is I read a really cool book, a memoir called Blood Red Snow, and it's a book about the Ostfront, the Eastern Front in the Second World War, and it's written by this guy who was in the German army, and he was a machine gunner, and he talks about like the transitioning of weapons and gear and how their unit wasn't like an SS unit, so they just got all the hand-me-downs is basically what they were given because they weren't important enough, right? And so the Mud Troopers, one of the things that becomes a real constant in the second season in particular is we always need people volunteering to clean weapons. And so like everyone pulls shifts in the armory, cleaning weapons, repairing gear, because all of our gear is garbage. And then they'll go to like a base where they've got their show bases where they want to shock and awe the locals, you know? And then they'll go there and they'll be like, man, everything's so clean, so good here. It's so great. And they're always blown away by the good stuff. And then they go back to where they're fighting and it's like, terrible resupply. Like nothing works. Like it's all garbage, you know? Their lardies that they use are refurbished, rehack models. Like some of them don't even have weapons. Some of them have like stuff that doesn't work on them, but that's all they got. Come on, guys, go out there and fight. So all those elements were things that I wanted to incorporate because those are the real world things that people like you and me pay attention to when we're there, you know? So I wanted that tactile nature of their gear and their bunks and the way they sleep and the way they live and when they eat. All those things are really important for these young soldiers because they're all like teenagers. They're like in their late teens, early 20s. They don't have the wherewithal that we do. They feel like they're invincible, and but slowly they break, and some of them have some real mental problems that develop along. Like one of the main characters gets really dark.
Well, I was gonna say like again, trickling back into sort of the real world aspects, talking about the PTSD of war and what that looks like and the way every soldier wears it. And what's great too is there's such a diversity amongst your cast. You know, you have men and female, male and female actors, because of course it's 2023 and it's Star Wars, and even just different ethnicities and so on. So I think that again, it kind of brings all together this idea of like celebrating.
And I didn't want anyone hiding their accents in it.
For sure.
I was very vocal about that. Don't hide your accent.
For sure.
Don't feel the need because like for all these people, like Galactic Basic wouldn't be their first language.
For sure.
So and that to me that adds first of all, from a production standpoint, it's better because it makes it easier to distinguish who's talking. But secondly, it's more plausible. The plausibility factor for me is something that I get frustrated with in Star Wars all the time.
Right.
Like, so that was something I wanted to address in this as well. The issue with like drugs and alcohol come up constantly. They're constantly drinking and they're constantly smoking. They're drinking and they're drinking and they're smoking. Because they smoke. So I did some reading about that. Like tobacco sticks is something that is used often. But it's kind of fallen out of favor. But to me, like, find me a Vietnam photo where they're not smoking dark.
Oh yeah,
constantly.
War
they're
photos. Every war photo that I can recall, soldiers are smoking, right?
So in Vietnam, so the infantry when they're on patrol, a lot of them they'd light cigarettes and then they would put them inside the bands of their helmets because the smoke would keep mosquitoes away. And so all these little things were things that I was like, I can't incorporate that. Nah, I don't need to incorporate that.
But that's cool though that you thought about
it. I did. Like legitimately, these are the things that I'm thinking about. And so when I was talking to my dad about what I need to do to really like create for somebody who's serving, there's this group of guys that are in the French Foreign Legion that like message me about it all the time. It's amazing.
Oh wow!
But my dad was saying, he goes, soldiers complain about their boots more than anything. He goes, and when we got these, he's like, in the late '90s, they switched the boots that we were wearing as soldiers, and it was one of the greatest days of my life. He goes, when we got these new boots, he goes, like, it changed. Like, he goes, I had problems with my hip problems went away. He goes, the arch support was so incredible, they're so comfortable, they're just the best boots ever. And so in the season, he complains about so much, but he consistently goes, the best thing the Empire ever did was these boots. Those are the best boots that I've ever worn in my life. They're the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
They may have skimped on a lot of stuff, but these were the best boots that I've ever worn. And so that was a direct line from my father
That's
that I
amazing.
incorporated into it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that influence, and I love that uh, people are reaching out to you that probably have gone to war or have gone through experiences that have listening to this, and even though it's fiction, they can find some sort of connection to it because it's drawing from a very real place for them and their experiences. So that's incredible. We've talked about obviously putting this project together and sort of the sound design and so on. So what's your process? Like, obviously, like, you got to write the story, right? But like okay, so season 1, if I'm not mistaken, it was smaller in terms of episodes, right?
Yeah, it was 10 episodes.
10
no,
episodes.
12 episodes.
12
yeah.
episodes. But
Yeah.
now here with season 2, you've got something like what? Like 20. Okay, so you've doubled. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I was trying to think of hours. Is it like it's not is it
It's about 23 hours long altogether.
Okay, cool.
All
Yeah,
32 episodes are about 23 hours.
Yes, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So, you've doubled up your episodes, which means you've increased your workload significantly. But when you're writing the story and writing it from episode to episode, do you sort of like have like a, again, like most Star Wars things, you know where you're ending? Is it just a matter of working towards that, and what elements come into play when? Like, how do you block that, if you will?
I knew there were some things I wanted to do. And the big thing was have this I wanted it to be a war that nobody cared about. That was the thing that I wanted to do, is like a war that nobody, yeah, exactly. War no one cares about.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like a war that no one cares about, that is being fought for one reason publicly, but in private is really being fought for another reason.
Right.
And what is that reason? Well, it depends how cynical you are. You know what I mean? And so I came up with that idea, and I rewrote him getting to the planet Cestin 4 like 5 or 6 times, because I knew when I needed to establish that he's fighting for the Empire, and I needed to humanize that aspect of why he's fighting for the Empire in a way that doesn't excuse what the Empire is. And so I needed to make sure that I painted him with enough youthful ignorance, but not make him sound like a moron that we don't care about. So I wanted to give him a lot of real personality to establish who he is. Like, by the time he lands on the planet, the first planet, you know who he is. And he is just like a classic teenage guy who's hepped up on testosterone and a feeling of invincibility, and thinks that he's doing the right thing. You know, he's got it all figured out. His dad said, don't join the army. Dad, you don't even know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
It's like he's got it all figured out. And he's kind of a dick, but he's not an asshole, if that makes any sense.
Right, yeah.
Like, because you're in that environment. I worked on army bases like in most of my teenage years. And like, there's a definite brash nature to these guys. Especially when they're going through training, and the training is designed to not to break you, but to push you further than you think you can go. And so a lot of these guys, like, and it's not just dudes, as women too, they get like chippy, and they push each other around, and they fight all the time. Like, and it's like they're just letting off steam, but it's not like they're fighting because they don't like each other. They're fighting, and then they come together back afterwards. It's this very sibling mentality. And so that aspect of it, and he talks about how when he goes, he's like, we fought and we drank and we beat the shit out of each other. It was the greatest time of my life. Like, he goes, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he's like, they're constantly fighting with each other, but no one's shooting at them. And they know they're all together, and no matter what happens, they're together. Like, they're together. They bleed the same blood. They're all together. And It's like he's meeting people that are from other planets. He's meeting from people that are other species. And it was a really cool vibe for him. So once I had that done, that is when I planned out the rest of the story. And I knew that there was going to be a clone for their lieutenant to give them this moral compass that we as the listener would appreciate.
Yeah.
And it was like peppering the characters that he would meet along the way.
Mhm.
And I knew that there was going to be a point where there's a transition from just a patrol unit to an active combat unit. Like they are engaging with the enemy. And that is when there's a big transition. I don't want to give away what happens at the end of the first season.
Yeah.
I won't.
Yeah.
But after that, things get even darker. You know, like the season ends, and then the next scene is the beginning of the second season.
Mm-hmm.
Like it leads right in. It's very seamless. And so I had this all planned out, and then it was just a question of expanding it and putting meat on the bones. Like there's a big scene it's actually 5 episodes long. It's I wanted to have a Terrakasi tournament.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that because something that the military in combat environments does all the time is to build that camaraderie and that esprit de corps, but also let the soldiers. Did you watch Battlestar Galactica? There was an episode called The Dance, and it was where the captain, just to let steam off, has a boxing tournament on the ship, and anybody can call out anybody to step in the ring. And it's like, you get your grudges out. He goes, you get your grudges out. He goes, because you got to get it out now, because when it hits the fan, you don't want to have any of these things causing problems in the ranks.
Right.
So they have this big Terrakasi tournament for the whole 934th Legion to crown a legionary champion. Whoever the company that wins will all get a big bonus. So that means the company's all cheering for their team. You know what I mean? And they have it as this big focal point in the town so that all the locals can see, this is the Empire. We're the Empire. Yeah. We're so good. And these are all things that were done in, like, not just Vietnam, but the Second World War, the First World War. And it's just a way of like getting everybody distracted, giving them something to think about, you know? So, and it's Terrakasi, which I bought brand new from Zellers when it came out for my PS1. And like, my friends hated it, and I think I hated it too, but I couldn't admit that I hated it. So I had to talk like it was the best game, because I didn't rent it and play it. I didn't go down to like Jumbo and rent it and then buy it. No, I bought it bareback because it's Star Wars.
Yeah, I like that name. You were calling it. I was like, I know that name. So I'm just looking it up now. Yeah, it's a PS1 game.
It is as bad as you think it is. It's called Terrakasi. Yeah. Masters of the Terrakasi. And it's a Star Wars fighting game.
Yeah.
It's just like a Virtual Fighter clone with Star Wars, and it had Mara Jade in it. And like, for those of us who like read all the expanded universe novels books in the 90s, we're like, yes, this is the best thing ever. Oh my god!
That's the only way those characters would ever see some sort of form of materialization outside of the books, right?
So and they mention Terrakasi in Solo as well. They give it a subtle mention, and so for me, I was like, oh, I got to get into it. So I like incorporate a lot of the cultural elements, because initially Terrakasi it's called the Steel Hand, and it's a combat art developed by the Mandalorians to combat Jedi. So like, I kind of get all into it, and I don't want to give anything away, but that to me. Now the last episode that came out, it's a big Crude Matter.
Yeah,
that's the biggest, beefiest piece of audio production I've ever done in my career. But I think my favorite sound design is in the Terrakasi tournament, because the whole time when they're in the stands, you can hear like people in the stands going, "I lost money on this guy. Like, what are you doing? Get up, get up, get up!" And so there's all these people talking, and there's like, they go through the markets, and there's like the entrance music, the like, there's music playing in the background, the environment stuff for like them being in a market. Like, I loved doing that stuff, and I found those episodes were a lot easier, but they sounded really cool, you know? And then the combat one is like, oh my god,
dude! Some of the stuff that you put in there, like, it's crazy, because like you referenced, you know, Galaxy's Edge, and at any given time when you're walking through, you're hearing like 50 plus sounds.
Yeah,
that's the sort of
that's what I wanted.
Yeah, that's this layered experience that you get when you listen to an episode of Mud. Is that you're hearing all of that textural noise, like even if it's just like ships landing or doors opening, and even if it's just like that maybe like some footsteps, even just to a certain degree, like there's just so much thought that goes into
I had to pay
designing
a
it.
subscription to like a music service,
Right.
so that I could get music to have music in the background, because
Yeah.
it sounded too empty, so I had to put music in.
Oh, it works
And
though.
so dude, I sunk so much money into just getting licensed music.
Oh, I can only imagine. And like the other thing too is like even just the way they start, like each episode starts with this sort of it just feels like you reference
The
sort
Clone
of
Wars
radio
thing?
stories, and the Clone Wars, like
So
the classics, the Clone
the
Wars.
guy that does that voice, his name is Adam Herdman.
Yep.
And he had never watched the Clone Wars, and he kept trying to give me this like professional, like, no, I want you to sound like a talkie radio thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, but that doesn't sound good. I'm like, you don't get it, Adam. This is Star Wars, okay? And so then I made him watch Clone Wars, and he's like, oh, across the galaxy,
war is brewing. No, I totally know. And it's always great how those, again, and that's sort of where, again, a lot of that inspiration I can see where you're drawing from. And I don't know, it's just everything about what you're doing here with Mud 79, it connecting back to Star Wars, connecting to real elements in our own life with as you described, Vietnam and just war and soldiers and what that looks like. It's just also relevant. So I imagine you've been getting a lot of praise from other other Star Wars fans in regards
not as
to,
much as I'd like.
Really?
Like it's like I said, I think that there's a real, as soon as you say it's fan made, they don't like it. There's like and it's like and I get it, because there's a perception of what it is they think they're going to be listening to. But what they are getting is very different. And in fact, when I first launched it, I redid the whole first season.
Yeah.
Like I did, because the initial read was built around Scoot McNairy's VO from Narcos Mexico. I don't know if you've seen Narcos Mexico, but when it opens, it shows this scene of like the ending, but you don't get to see the ending. You see the beginning of the end, and then a bunch of news footage. And he goes, I'm going to tell you a story, but I don't know how it ends. And the way he does it is this very dry, drawl voice, but it works because there's visual. And without the visual, it just sounded really boring and sad. So I re-voiced it. And my worry is that some people may have listened in the first season and just didn't like it. And then when I went back, I had all kinds of new tricks, and I had all kinds of things that I learned along the way.
Yeah.
And then I redid those episodes, and then I started working on the second. And that second, I started working on it on January 14th. And I would work on, I'd wait until my wife was asleep, and I would come downstairs to my studio, which I'm in, by the way. When I say studio, it's really just a laptop with some speakers. It just sounds more professional.
That's cool.
But so I'd come back down into this room, and then I would work on it. And I'd work on it from about 11:15 to around 1 in the morning.
Wow.
And I did that from January. It was January 14th or 15th. It was that weekend is when I started. It was a Friday night. And I did that up until November 10th. So
Jesus.
that's like constantly. I was just constantly working on it, like 5-6 nights a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 2 weeks per episode for a turnaround. Some of them I could do quick.
Yeah.
But some of them took longer. So that one episode that came out, Crude Matter, that took about 3 weeks to do. And I was working on that on weekend afternoons, which is kind of like a no-no for me.
Right.
That was not I didn't want to get in the way of like family time,
For sure. Yeah. It's the work-life balance. I totally get it. I'm still figuring it out, and my wife's always there to remind me if I'm.
It'll happen though. You'll get it together.
Right? So
yeah.
But again, you're wrapping season 2 in the coming weeks. At the time of recording this, I believe all but the last 3 episodes. 3 episodes.
3 episodes, and these are 3. These were the 3 that I had put the most planning into before I'd actually written it. Carlos Bustamante, formerly of the YTV here in Canada and ET Canada, who I adore as a human being.
Yeah,
massive Star Wars fan. He was a guy that I talked to him about it when I was working on it, and because we'd see each other at work,
Mhm.
And I told him, like, I've got a character for you that you're going to play, and I can't wait for you to be in it, but I'm not going to get there for a long time. And then when I finally got there, he gave me all of his audio and stuff, and his character is so cool. It's a character that I've always wanted to see in Star Wars. He's built around uh, another character from the original season of Narcos, and then he appeared in Narcos Mexico. The CIA dude with the beard
Oh yeah,
that
who's
everybody is afraid of
yeah,
because they don't know who he's gonna side with at any given time.
yeah,
Sometimes he's siding with one cartel, sometimes he's siding with nobody,
right,
and that is his character. And it's a character. We have these two purge troopers
yeah,
that appear in the series, voiced by Andrew Wheeler, who's a comic book writer and voice performer, and he did the Black Flamingo for Image, and
right.
Heather Antos, former editor of all the Marvel comic properties.
Wow.
She is red. She is red, and he is blue. And those two are like, everyone's scared of them because they're the purge troopers. We sort of painted as guys that were like augmented and enhanced and like just he describes them once he sees one of them without their helmet, and he talks about how their skin is like waxen, like, and he refers to them as like deep space freighter pilots that haven't seen the light of a sun in years.
Yeah.
And so they're on edge, they're terrifying, but even they are uneasy when they're around Captain Largo,
Oh,
played
sick.
by Carlos. And that character
Carlos.
yeah, I was
can't believe
super
it.
stoked to have him play that character.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear his voice. And you're describing these purge troopers. I always thought, death troopers, purge troopers, any of them really, they all kind of feel like work in progresses or even just extensions of what Vader absolutely
Yeah.
was, right? Because he's very much augmented. So the way you're describing a lot of these, the way these purge troopers are, I think.
We haven't talked about the Inquisitor though.
Yeah,
Inquisitor Tiberia.
yeah, exactly. I wanted to ask you, like, I know that there's an
My
Inquisitor
favorite
in here.
character.
Yeah,
My favorite one. So I can't believe I forgot that. Voiced by my buddy Tony. She was a radio producer, and she worked at KISS in Toronto. She now works at a reggaeton station in Kingston, Jamaica. She went back home to Jamaica.
Yeah.
And so she voices our Inquisitor. Inquisitor Tiberia is her name. And I think this is controversy.
Okay.
I think out of everything that has been introduced in the new era of Star Wars, nothing is truer to the feeling of Star Wars and the intent of Star Wars, or is as cool as the Inquisitors, period. End of story.
Yeah.
And I say that because the Inquisitors, I think, are a metaphor for untreated mental health issues and drug addiction. And I say that because if you take a look at, and they talk about this in Jedi Fallen Order a lot, and I think that I was playing that game right around when I was kind of like tinkering with what I was going to do. They're low level Jedi. They're low level Jedi. They're Padawan. They're Jedi that weren't super powerful, and they managed to get captured, and they're broken. The Emperor breaks them. He makes them addicted to the dark side of the Force, meaning they can't survive without it. They need to spread fear. They need to spread hatred. They need to spread wanton violence and carnage everywhere. They need violence. And to me, that is what makes the dark side. It's like the dark side isn't evil, but it can be evil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they are junkies for the dark side.
Right.
And there's the episode where I felt like the episode where I wrote that I felt like, man, I think I've really done something cool and unique here. It's episode 7. And episode 7 involves them helping an Inquisitor and the two Purge troopers run a rapid assault and ambush on a safe house for secessionist activity.
Wow.
And I got the idea from talking. I was working on this one comic book years ago that involved some stuff happening in Afghanistan, and I interviewed a lot of these guys from the JTF, the Joint Task Force. These are special forces guys, and then infantry guys, like regular infantry guys that were serving in Afghanistan, and they talked about how they never saw the JTF guys. They never saw them around. They were never anywhere. He goes, when they rolled in, and he goes, and you'd have a guy who's like a master corporal or a sergeant telling a captain what was going to happen. And there was no questioning them. They rolled in, rank didn't matter. They told them what was happening. And then they're going to tell you, you're going to go here, you're going to go here, you're going to have my back, you're going to have her back. We're going in, you be where you are, because if you fall behind, we're not coming back for you. Right. Keep up. And so this episode was built around those interviews that I had done. And I show the Inquisitor doing what an Inquisitor does. And this is the moment when all of the characters that are newbies, because they call them fresh gray. When they're fresh gray, they're new. But there are guys in their unit that have seen this type of thing before. Like one of them, Sergeant Husto, the medic, who's voiced by comic book creator Michael Walsh, who did the comic book adaptation for The Last Jedi. Yeah. His character has seen this type of thing before, and he's grabbing guys being like, don't get in their way. Like, these guys are bad news, man. You stay away. And there's a scene where the main character, and I tried to do this as best I could, goes in after what the Inquisitor has done in this building. And he talks about this line. He goes, it was like she was a child playing with her food. That's how he describes the carnage that has happened after the Inquisitor has gone through. Wow. And I've tried to impart, like, and then I was thinking, like, because most people, there was only 10,000 Jedi in a galaxy of trillions. Right. There's a lot of people that probably doubt Jedi even ever existed. And then when one rolls in that is an Inquisitor, that her only reason for being there is she needs you to suffer. She needs you to be afraid, and she's going to sow fear, and she is going to sow violence because she fucking needs it. She cannot survive without it. And so you've got guys that are like teenagers that have been in a few firefights. They've seen some things, but they have never seen anything like this before. And when they come in behind, it's like he sees her after she's done it, and like even the purge troopers are sort of like, get everybody out of here. Get everybody out of here. It's not going to be good. Get everybody out of here. And so there's this real sense of like utter terror. And how do you recover from that? And then, yeah, like that was the thing that I wanted to do the most. And Tony was so good. She sounds so mean when she's delivering her lines.
That's great.
So the Inquisitor was like, and I think that if the season 1 finale has like a really, really cool scene with her specifically, and you sort of, she's bad, and he even describes her. He's like, he knows she's bad, but she's bad and she's on our side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's our bad guy. She's our villain. She'll protect us. And so it's like, even when he starts seeing what she does, he's like, I'm rooting for her, man, because she's keeping. And so there's that idea, like when we watch Star Wars and we watch Obi-Wan and Anakin go through and like destroy all these droids. Imagine if those were people.
Yeah.
Would we think it was awesome then?
No,
and they're like, the Force, you fly off of the building. Like, you 19-year-old kid that just picked the wrong side. You're gone now. I'm a Jedi. It's like, but that's what the Jedi did. Like, legitimately, that's what they did. So I wanted to have those elements because I don't think Star Wars explored. They've given us all these things in the sandbox, but they only take it 2 steps. And it's like, we all in the back of our heads know that this isn't all that we get.
For sure.
But I wanted to show that, you know?
Yeah. And I love that you've taken it in a direction that you feel, works for the story, right? Like, you're talking about the Inquisitors as sort of an allegory for mental health and addiction, and you're also talking about soldiers as well that are going through PTSD and they have their own sort of trauma. I think there's something really interesting about that dynamic and understanding what feeds the idea of wanting to, be in a war, or what keeps you going, and whatnot. So I think that's great. Again, all of it really is drawn from something that feels real, and I think that's what's really refreshing about what you're doing with Mud. So yeah, the last 3 episodes are going to be going out. I think by the time that I post this episode, there might be 2 episodes left, because I'll be posting it probably towards the end of this week. And with
It's going to be a really cool. The last 2 episodes are really cool.
I'm
I
excited.
think they're super cool, man.
Well, like I said, I have to plow through. I'm hoping through the holiday break I can just sit down and find time to just listen.
It's good
to
for
them.
driving.
I know, I don't drive nearly as much. Like, I was driving a lot when I was listening to the first parts of season 1, and then I haven't driven nearly as much. So you're totally right. Like, commuting and doing, it's perfect for that, because you can really get immersed in it very, very easily. But you have a season 3. I think it's safe to say that's in the works. Do you have like an ending though? Like, do you feel?
No, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Okay, cool.
Listen to this, man. You want to know the whole thing? You want in? Listen to this. So when I first started working on it, I was talking to Heather about it, and I said, I'm like, and maybe one day that I'll get to do a comic or something. She goes, never gonna happen. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, they won't. That's not what they do. They don't take fan projects and turn them into real things. She goes, but if you're smart, you'll use your fan project to build something that could exist within the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Because then, without even realizing, you're going to be building and prepping and finding things and creating characters and environment for them. And so I have created an idea.
There you go.
That I can't really talk about,
no,
but
for sure.
It is an offshoot. And if you listen through the second season, specifically it's the second last episode. No, the last episode of the Terrakasi tournament, arc, and it's called A Legionary Champion. I say without saying where things are going.
Interesting.
I think that run of the episodes with the big Terrakasi tournament, that sets up the entire ending of the whole series. And it's all there, and everything gets kind of dropped, but I don't say what's going to happen.
You're hinting
I just
at it.
Tease at what's going to happen.
Yeah, That's good. Well, it's available now. Mud 79 is available on pretty much everywhere on podcast feeds. I was checking it today, and you do have a site for it. I'm going to be putting all of that in our show notes for our listeners, so that they can check it out. Because if you're a Star Wars fan, and I do mean this. This is made for Star Wars fans. This is definitely made with a labor of love and an attention to detail.
Here's a detail for you. When I say an E10 is blasting, that's an E10 sound effect. When I say it's an A22, it's an A22.
And you got
the actual sounds.
You got all of them in there, and that's what's so great. Like, there's such an attention to that detail that it literally paints a picture. It reminds me of another. You probably might have heard of it. It's another podcast that's very similar. It's sort of a storytelling podcast. It's called Blockbuster. It's about Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, and it's told as a story about how they sort of built Hollywood. So you're following.
Oh, dude, I gotta find that, man.
Yeah, it's great. And then season 2 is about James Cameron and his career as a director. So it's told in a way, and again, they have a lot of specials for that episode as well, where they talk about the sound design and taking specific elements to help tell the story about George Lucas on his first day of set filming Star Wars, or Steven Spielberg fumbling with this mechanical shark on the set of Jaws, right? So there's so much attention to that detail, and honestly, I mean it. Like, this Mud 79 feels like it's perfect for Star Wars in that sort of radio style story that feels so Orson Welles, and then it feels also incredibly refreshing because it's bringing in new concepts. It's bringing in fresh ideas that Star Wars is playing with, and I think Mud 79 is going further. So yes, for any of our Star Wars fans, you definitely want to check it out, and it's available on all podcast feeds. I do want to talk to you about this lovely thing. I'm showing you the hardcover copy of Dead Romans. I'm still getting through it. I'm through when I talked to you, I said I had finished the first 2 chapters. I'm halfway through 3, and I'm going to finish the rest of it. But this is a beautiful piece of work. This is the full collection, the full hardcover. Next time I see you, I got to get you to sign it, and Nick as well.
Jim Valentino's mad that I haven't talked about it. Buy Dead Romans from Shadowline and Image. I appreciate it.
I also would love to just hit home the idea of buying the full story. Like, this full hardcover is beautiful.
Oh, it's great.
It's
an oversized hardcover too, so it's like
exactly
a European sized comic book. Like, it's a novel. I was shocked that Shadowline and Image wanted to do a collector hardcover.
It's great. It's so beautiful, and the pages are so nice, and the drawings and the illustrations that Nick have done, they're just so gorgeous. Recently I watched 300, which
I've heard of.
Yes, which you've heard of. And I know we were talking about this at Wayside in Newmarket when you were here about the potential for it. So, like, I know you're thinking of it. You're obviously working on a second run of part 2 of this story.
Those talks are happening. I can't get really super
of course,
but
yes,
we are talking with a production company that has done a lot of work with HBO about Dead Romans right now,
for sure.
And when I get off the line with you, I'm going to work on some stuff that I've been told to do for them. So yeah, to ensure that happens.
Well, good, because I like that's what I was really getting at. Having seen something like 300, and obviously Zack Snyder doing what he did with that Frank Miller story, this is a story that I think deserves the same sort of level of treatment, because it is beautiful, and it is so well done, and there's such a visual mastery that you and Nick have put here that I think would really transcend in a beyond.
Edward Berger is the guy that I want to do it. Okay, Edward Berger is the guy that I want attached to it.
Awesome.
And I have been very vocal that Edward Berger, if you're listening, Dead Romans, you should do it. It'd be really good. Please do it. Yeah, Edward Berger. Yeah.
But this, like I said, this has been your year, man. I'm congratulations on doing the thing, getting this comic book out that I know, which was a labor of love, as well as Mud 79, man, because this is absolutely, it's so great to see, not just a Canadian talent, but a talent that is a fellow geek like us, and someone that I've admired, and you've been in. When I was growing up in high school, hearing your voice on the radio, seeing you on Platoon at night, man. So it's been a wild trip, and I've been glad that this last year we've been able to actually connect and get to know each other.
Yeah, man. I really, you've been very supportive about Dead Romans from the very beginning. And about Mud 79, so I'm super appreciative.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you this: if anything happens and it turns into a TV show, you're on the press call. You're in there.
I'm
for
there,
sure.
man.
Guaranteed.
I'm there. Again, I'll be
person, there. Craft service tray, fruit snacks.
You tell me
everything you want.
You tell me where you want. Hey, you know what? Me and Nate were talking. If you do a season 3, we would love to contribute voices to that immense
100%.
voice cast. He says that he would even do. If you want some alien creatures, he can do that. He'll do.
Let me tell you, because a lot of people die in the second season, so there's going to be some openings for new characters.
Awesome.
Don't worry.
Well, we're ready for the call. So again, I appreciate you taking the time to join us on the Geekcentric podcast, man. Awesome. Well, that's it for this special Behind the Geeks episode with Fearless Fred, creator of Mud 79, author of Dead Romans. Everything's going to be in our show notes, so you can go check that out. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, we would love to hear from you. A 5-star review goes a long way. Or if you want, you can reach out to us via email at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com, or on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. It's now known as X.
It's Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. At Geekcentric YT, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. Right now, we got interviews out right now. One with the cast of Percy Jackson. I also have all my coverage from Rebel Moon out now, including my interview with director Zack Snyder and the cast of the movie, which was conducted in LA. I was out there for the premiere. We also have a supercut episode with all of those interviews in podcast form, where me and Nate talk about that experience. And we have our spoiler-free review for Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, available now wherever you listen to podcasts. So go check that out before you see the movie, or maybe after you see the movie, however you feel. So lots for you to enjoy. Again, Fred, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, man.
Awesome. Until next time, peace.